Does the sound of a lonesome train whistle stir the wanderlust in you? How about the thought of just sitting back, disconnecting from the world and watching some of the world's most beautiful scenery go by? Then this review is for you. Stay tuned. And as always, if you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. It helps us spread the word. My guest today is Lola Vassiliadis, owner of My Luxury Cruises Incorporated, operating two Ontario-based travel agencies, Cruise Holidays of Oakville and Cruise Holidays of Lawrence Park, comprising a team of 17-plus travel advisors based in Ontario, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia. Lola and her team have been serving the needs of their clients since 1997. Hi, Lola. Welcome to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me back. I love the show.
Oh, wonderful. It's great to have you back, Lola. So, Lola, there's basically three types of vacation people think about when they think about taking a vacation. An all-inclusive resort, a cruise vacation, or perhaps a land tour. But quite often what folks are overlooking is something that's a form of vacation that's been around for approximately 200 years now, and that's by rail. Now, I understand that we have a company here in Canada called Rocky Mountaineer, and you've recently returned from just such a vacation aboard the Rocky Mountaineer. Can you bring our viewers and listeners a little bit up to speed on what that experience was like and give us a bit of a review?
Yeah, I'd love to. It was a great experience. You know, a lot of people are looking for things to do, and this is right in our backyard, and a lot of people don't realize it.
Right.
And I was really quite happy to be able to experience this myself. We've been selling Rocky Mountaineer for years, and it's not often that we get a chance to get on board ourselves. So we started out, we flew to Calgary, and then we had to transfer from Calgary over to Banff, and that's where the train started. And I have to tell you, it was a wonderful experience. It was much more than I expected it to be. The service was spectacular. Food was very good. We were in the gold leaf, not the silver leaf, but the gold leaf.
Okay.
And that is the cars that have the big, very large panoramic windows.
Okay.
And below our car was the dining room. So we had breakfast and lunch in the dining room, as opposed to the silver leaf where you are served your breakfast and lunch at your seat. I am gluten-free, or gluten intolerant, so I like gluten-free things. And I have to tell you, they did one of the most spectacular jobs that I've experienced out of a lot of the travel that we have done. The car itself is so comfortable, absolutely. And the car would take 70 passengers, and the one that we were on, the train ride we were on, there was only 20 of us in that car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had a ton of room. Everybody spread out. My husband George was on the other aisle. He's looking out that side of the train. I'm looking out the other side of the train. The chairs, the seats, which are really very comfortable with the leg rest, you can flip them around. So you're facing, if there's four of you traveling together, you can face each other. There's little tables. You can play cards or whatever you want to do. But most of the time, you're just looking out the window and enjoying the spectacular views. But I found that if I turned the seat facing me,
right
across from me, I put the leg rest up. I was able to stretch my legs out and put my feet up on the other leg rest. I mean, we were so totally laid back and comfortable. It was unbelievable. The sights you see are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rockies, the rivers flowing right next to the rail side. And it's amazing how fast those rivers flow. I was quite surprised. The service on board, we had three hosts on board. And knowing that I was gluten-free, they really went out of their way for me. When you get on board, within about, I'd say 15, 20 minutes as you're seated and comfortable, they bring fresh made, homemade scones and jam to everybody and to your coffee. Being gluten-free, they offered me some gluten-free toast, which I thought was nice. And they laid out my tea service like you wouldn't believe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good. At lunch, the salmon, unbelievable. I've never had salmon like it. It was so good. The food was spectacular. Everybody was raving about their meals. They produced a gluten-free, sugar-free dessert for me. The next day, when we got back on the train, because you don't stay on the train overnight.
Oh, okay.
You leave the train and you go to a hotel. You don't have to touch your luggage. Everything is done. You get to the hotel. Your luggage is in your room. You don't have to do anything. So you get back on the train the next morning. And again, they do the same service with the scones and the jam. And I got my gluten-free toast. And this time, the chef went a little further, and he put a nice little bowl of fresh cut fruit aside the toast. And my husband looked over at me and he said, "How did you get that?" And I says, "Well, I'll be generous. I'll share with you."
And so you're telling me George was jealous.
George was jealous. So at lunch, again, I had the salmon. It was just so good that I had to have salmon again. And for dessert, the chef had made me a little blueberry banana loaf. And I could eat about half of it. I was so full. So when they came to clear up the table, one of the hosts had said to me, "You didn't finish your banana loaf." And I said, "I was just so stuffed. It was wonderful. I loved it." He said, "Tell you what," he said, "how about if I put this to the side? I'll bring it back in a couple of hours with a nice cup of tea." And that's what they did.
It's incredible service.
Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable service. It absolutely was.
Yeah.
It was top notch.
So
I have to say, some of the viewing wasn't as spectacular as it could have been. Obviously, there were fires out west still going on.
right,
We went through some areas that were very smoky.
right,
So at that point, they brought everybody in from the viewing platform because it was just not good for you to be out there breathing that smoke. We did see from the day prior where they did controlled burns next to the rail.
right.
Areas that were still smoldering a little bit and were very charred. So, we got to see the really good and the bad.
Right.
But we were actually the first run that made it all the way through from Banff to Vancouver. All of the previous runs, unfortunately, because of the fires, could not use the rail between Vancouver and Kamloops.
Right. But this isn't something that happens every year.
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. So, all around, it was just a spectacular trip. I have to say, with rail, because Rocky Mountaineer does not have their own rail, their own tracks,
Right.
they use the CP and then at a later point, the CN rail. The freight trains get priority.
Right.
So there are times where we would have to go off on the side and wait a few minutes for a train to go by and then get back on.
Right.
And that's part of the charm of rail travel.
Of rail.
I mean, you get on the train at the appropriate time. Doesn't mean you're going to leave at that time. There could be something coming the other way, and you have to sit and wait until the way is clear.
So the viewing platform, is that what you mean by the upper deck on the car, or is it something entirely different?
No, you go downstairs to the bottom level, and it is an open section. Okay. At the end of each car, so you can go out there for picture taking. So you're not taking pictures through the window. Right. So that's the platform.
Oh, I see. Okay. So how big would that viewing platform be?
It was pretty big. It could take a number of people.
And no doubt people would take advantage.
I mean, it could easily have held the 20 people that were in our car.
Really? So it's that large?
Yeah, it's pretty large. And obviously the washrooms, you never had to sort of wait. Yeah. So,
So you don't overnight on the train?
No, you do not overnight on the train. There are no facilities.
And is that pretty much standard as far as you know with Rocky Mountaineer, that they always pull in for a hotel stay no matter how long?
Absolutely. Okay. Generally, it's a 2-day trip between Banff and Vancouver, and your overnight is in Kamloops. If you're doing the Vancouver to Jasper, that's also a 2-day trip with an overnight halfway. So they always break it up, and then you can extend your trip by spending extra time, let's say in Vancouver, or spending extra time in Banff. So
Okay.
a trip can be stretched out 4, 5, 6, 7 days.
Okay. Okay. So that's how it works out then if you package something. That leads me to a question, Lola. If this is like a 2-day trip,
Mhm.
is that something that could be packaged as kind of an extension on perhaps the end of an Alaska cruise or a pre-thing for something happening in British Columbia? Or okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do it quite often.
And it's just it's probably the ultimate extension or pre or post extension by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it is.
So is this for everybody? What type of demographic do we find on board?
It is not, I would not say it's for children, especially young children. They would just be too bored.
Okay.
I said to George at one point, if we ever wanted to punish our grandkids, we could put them on here for 2 days with no Wi-Fi, no internet.
Oh
All they
no.
have to do is talk to us and look out
They'll
the
be
window.
disconnected from the hive mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're a train buff, you definitely would love this if you haven't already done it.
Right.
People who do, let's say, motor coach tours would enjoy this. And actually, pretty well anybody
Right.
would enjoy this. And it was so nice. The scenery from Banff to Kamloops, I have to say, was a little more exciting than from Kamloops to Vancouver.
Okay.
Because at that point you're not seeing as much of the mountains and things like that. So it was a little more relaxing. I was able to just sit back, read a book, and gaze out of the window. And I absolutely enjoyed the relaxation of that day.
Right.
It was great to just unwind.
And the service you talked about, that kind of harkens back to the vintage days of rail and the 5-star service you used to get aboard CP and CN.
Yes.
I gather that must be what they're trying to emulate.
Yes, yeah. And they do a fabulous job at it.
Right.
The hosts were so knowledgeable. You could ask them any question of anything that you saw, and they knew the answers. They had some very entertaining stories,
Yeah.
and they really did
Yeah.
an A-plus job.
So you mentioned gold leaf and silver leaf service.
Right.
The gold leaf service you described as you're sitting in the upper deck of the car with the glassed in, probably 360 view.
Right.
And the silver leaf would be down in the bottom section of the car. Is that?
No, they're actually separate cars.
Oh, okay.
So you will see the gold leaf car is higher because it has the 2 levels, and
Right.
then it has that big window.
Viewing
So
section.
basically, through the center is an area that has, of course, electrical and lights and things, but the rest of it is just glass. The other cars, they will have other cars that are your regular train level cars, let's say, and that is the silver.
Okay.
So they don't have the dining car. Their food is brought to them at their seats and served to them at their seats. The other difference besides the windows in the silver leaf, they do go up and they do bend around a little bit. So you do have a good view. It's just not as extensive as the gold leaf.
In terms of seeing the Rockies, is this a good way for somebody that's never been to BC or seen the Rockies? Is this a good way to see the Rockies?
I think it is. I mean, obviously somebody could drive the same route basically, because a lot of times we did see the highway alongside of us. But I know driving sometimes with George, he's looking at the view as much as I am. Yeah. And I'm getting nervous and saying, watch the road. Yeah. So this was a much better way to see it in a safer way for me.
Keyword is relaxation. The both of you are relaxed.
Absolutely. And when you're driving, you definitely aren't able to see everything because your eyes are on the road.
You definitely need to keep your eyes on the road through the Rockies.
Yeah. And we did go through a lot of tunnels, which were interesting. And we had these sort of, not roundabouts, but to go from different levels. At one point, they had this sort of like a corkscrew type
switchbacks.
The switchbacks. I mean, those are interesting. And, you could see one end of the train to the other end of the train as you're going around curves, which was really neat.
So is there a seasonality to it, Lola?
Yeah, it's basically sort of like Alaska, but a little bit longer, just slightly. It's basically April to October.
Okay.
Alaska's May to September.
So I know now in doing a little bit of the research, they've recently expanded with what they call Rockies to the Red Rocks. Do we know anything about that?
Yeah, that is one that goes through the American Southwest.
Okay.
It goes from the Colorado Rockies in Denver
Okay.
through a number of canyons and deserts to red sandstone rock formations in Moab, Utah. So
Okay.
you get quite a diversity of landscapes there. Again, it's a 2-day journey with an overnight midway, and the overnight in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And like the others, you can do add-ons, so you can extend your trip.
Yeah.
You can either do it in Las Vegas or you can do it in Salt Lake City.
But they're two entirely different itineraries.
Yes.
Like you're not going to do this. You're not going to be on the same train that's going through the Rockies in British Columbia as you would be down south.
Yeah. There is completely different. The topography is different. Everything is different. The only thing that will be the same is the fantastic service.
Well, that sounds like that's going to be very popular for them.
I think so too. And for people who have taken the Rocky Mountaineer up here in Canada, I mean, that's a great choice for them to go down south and do it once the world rights itself and
exactly
get into the States again.
Exactly. Well, Lola, this has been really, really informative. I always like to ask my guests, and I know both you and George and all of your travel advisors are avid travelers as well. What's next on your guys' bucket list?
George and I have a nice river cruise that we're doing in October.
Okay. A lot of interest for 22.
Yes, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And on that note, would you recommend people book?
Definitely, because there are some itineraries in 22, believe it or not, that are selling out. In most part, your deposit is refundable. So all you're risking is that deposit for a certain amount of time, and then up until final payment. If things still aren't the way you would like them to be, then you can cancel and get your refund back, your deposit back.
There really isn't any risk in starting to plan ahead, which I personally think even the fact that one starts to plan ahead and gives you something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Is good tonic for people in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And I was with my sister on the weekend, and she says it's been 2 years since we've traveled, and we always go somewhere on a big trip each year. She said, I am just going stir crazy. Yeah. I cannot wait. So they're starting to look at something for 23. Yeah. Yes, it's a bit off, but she needs that. She needs to know she has something to look forward to.
How well I think all of us understand that.
Yeah.
Well, Lola, this has been fantastic. It's been very informative. If folks want more information or like to get hold of any one of your travel advisors, what's the best way to contact you?
Well, they can go on our website, cruiseholidaysoakville.com, or they can check out our Lawrence Park office, which would be lawrenceparkcruises.com, and they can get all the contact information right there.
Okay. And I'll leave that contact information in the description for you. So on that note, I'm going to wish you happy and safe travels in the future, and we look forward to seeing you on a Lido deck real soon.
I hope so, Ken.
All right. Take care, Lola.
You have a great day.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that about wraps things up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Lola Vassiliadis of Cruise Holidays of Oakville and Lawrence Park. For those of you looking for more information on the Rocky Mountaineer or another vacation, I'll leave their contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us, leave a comment, send an email to questions@realtravelexperts.com, or visit our website, realtravelexperts.com. We always respond, and we'd love to hear from you. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this video, a like, a subscribe, and the ring of the bell would certainly be appreciated, and it helps us to spread the word. Until next time, happy travels.